Hello.
And welcome. We are back after a long hiatus. We are back bringing you Poetic Justice. I am your host, Tara.
And Jamesia. And thank you for tuning in with us with the NAACP Chicago Westside branch.
The one and only.
Yes, yes. So,
today's theme is to be accounted for. Not just the census, not just talking about Beyonce, but in all ways. We want you to be accounted for here in Chicago.
yes. So, Chicago has a lot of historians such as Michelle Obama, Jennifer Hudson, Shaka Khan.
Chance the Rapper.
Yes, a lot of people that have done amazing things to help Chicago, become such a better place. We are often misunderstood throughout other news media outlets, and we have a lot of good people that's working in good faith to help our communities. And what is good for that to help me accounted for is definitely education.
Absolutely. And we're also talking about how representation in the media can affect who is accounted for. And because this is National Poetry Month, April's National Poetry Month, I want to kick off our discussion with the wonderful poem we saw about a black woman who wants to be accounted for and is also speaking for representatives of black women. Oh, looks like we have a caller already. Let's take a call.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. I wonder why the media part of the violence and why they still doing all the violence downtown everywhere else, and the media probably the problem.
Yep. So I think the question was just centered around why is the media showing a lot of negative behavior going in Chicago. In recent events, there was a the youth downtown just having a little bit too much fun, I would say, and it was portrayed in a negative way. It was portrayed as like riots and people were fighting and during the most. I think it was just a lot of kids that were together and they just had a little bit too much fun. But I think that a lot of times we can be portrayed negative in the media just to help contribute to the negative stereotype of black people. So that is another reason why we were just stating why it's important for the good representation.
Absolutely. We have another caller already. Hey.
Hey, good evening, young ladies.
Good evening.
I just wanted to ask out. The name of your I guess the theme of your show today is Poetic Justice.
Yes, Poetic Just Us.
Yep, Poetic Just Us.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to say you all didn't mention what's her name, Janet Jackson, and she was in the movie Poetic Justice.
Yes.
One of those sheroes,
Definitely. And thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, she's definitely a shero.
She is a shero. Check out this next shero we're about to play too.
Coming from Gary, Indiana.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you from Gary, Indiana?
No, actually, I'm from Chicago, but
Nice.
It's my understanding I'm a distant relative through marriage to the Jackson family.
Oh, wow.
Something
That's
that I
really cool.
discovered and passed along to my children when they were coming up. By way of, I guess, Arkansas and the Browns family and some other distant relatives over in Memphis, yeah.
Well, thank you. And shout out to you. Thanks for calling in and letting us know.
Thank you for calling, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you, callers, already. We just got started, and we have some love just coming in. I appreciate that. We are going to, speaking of sheroes, I have a new shero. This lovely poet I discovered a few days ago, and I want to share with you all about representation, about just defining yourself for who you want to be. And of course, it's befitting because April is National Poetry Month, so let's check it out.
Let's check it out. I'm very excited to hear a great
At
poet
Carvana, we have only one standard when it comes to the quality of
great news. I'm just really excited.
Of course, there's ads. Here we go.
Black woman steps up to mic. Black woman has a poem gestating deep inside her belly, can feel the painful pulse of contraction, her mouth fully dilated, but black woman is afraid to push the poem from her lips for fear that the crowd will call her poem ugly, its cries unworthy of being heard, or even worse, they will try to kill it. Because see, black woman has become accustomed to having her babies slaughtered. Black woman is accustomed to the same kind of death herself. Black woman feels like she should change her name from mother to martyr. Black woman is even afraid to call herself black woman too many times in this poem because she has been taught that she is too insignificant to be acknowledged. Black woman steps up to mic. But before she can even speak a word, she already hears the crowd's thoughts. Shut up, bitch. Nobody wants to hear another one of your black woman poems. Besides, nobody can hear your dog whistle of a voice besides other black bitches. Black woman steps up to mic. Prays that she gets it right. Realize that her voice is made the only darkness in a sea full of white. She prays that telling her own story will be stronger and more powerful than the men who try to do it for her or to her. You can see, everyone wants a piece of black woman, but black woman can't even speak her own piece. Black woman tries to seek peace between the mic and the crowd in what feels like light years of space, and light travels faster than sound, so black woman knows that they will see her before they ever truly hear her. Black woman steps up to mic, cognizant of how she appears in front of a jury who don't see her as their peer. Texas Grand Slam got her feeling like a lone star. Black woman doesn't want to appear too woman, too black. Black woman is told never to hurt, that she don't feel a thing, that her melanin and estrogen cancel out the human in her DNA. Black woman is told that her sorrow is a false alarm that goes off way too often, while white privilege gets the siren it struggles all over the stage. Black woman steps up to mic. Feels the urge to push but doesn't want to tear. Doesn't want them to interpret weakness from her tears. She doesn't want to be called a crybaby. So she rocks her poem gently in the back of her throat and whispers to it, "Don't cry, baby." Instead, yell. Wail like you want nothing more than to be born and to live. You press your chin down into your chest and you push like you deserve to be here. You push like you a virgin. You push like you trying to deliver a savior into this world. Black woman steps up to mic. Black woman speaks.
All right, that was Black Woman Steps Up to Mic, and we have a caller. Hello, caller.
Good evening, ladies. How you doing? You ladies brought up some historical people in Chicago, but one person you did not bring up. It wasn't one matter of fact. The late Mayor Harold Washington, and it seemed like to me he died a second death. When you look in terms of his contribution, what he brought to Chicago, maybe it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have no Barack Obama. And when you look and see what the system had done in terms of killing him, nowhere else in the state of Illinois, how we elect a chief executive, we had this 50+1. When blacks came together as a coalition, and they put him in the office. And we look at a lot of different things they had dismantled in terms of the faith-based places now. Now they came up with the C503, where these faith-based places cannot be politically involved at all. And we look at some of the things that helped got him into office. Look what happened to Jet and Everyday Magazine. It's no longer around. WJPC, a bunch of other organizations which they just dismantle. And if you ask the average like 8 or 9 year old around Chicago who was Harold Washington, they couldn't tell you, but they could tell you not to put anybody down. They could tell you who Beyonce is, who Michael Jordan is, or even Oprah Winfrey, but they don't know who the heck Harold Washington. Yet we got a Social Security building downtown named after him, and we got a library named after him, and a city college. If you ask me, he had a second death as well.
Thank you for calling and saying that Harold Washington was definitely a major contribution to Chicago, definitely in the education field. And it's definitely, thank you, caller, for coming and chiming in on Harold Washington and Beyonce, because it just helps transition to the next step.
Look at that works.
So recently, Beyonce, Knowles Carter, has came out with a homecoming Netflix series. This is very important to Black culture in recent times because not only did she acknowledge the culture and education, she made history. She was the first Black woman to actually headline Coachella in 2018. During her performance, she definitely put on for historically Black colleges and universities. So it was definitely important that we watched and just have the whole world watch.
Absolutely.
About Black history and HBCU culture. So let's go ahead with the caller.
Hey, caller.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, I'm calling because I wanted to know how you guys are already explaining how people, Black women and specifically, are heroes in society. I wanted to know how you two are Black heroes in society, since given you guys are Black women.
Definitely.
That's a great question.
It is. That was an amazing question.
How are you a shero in society?
Go ahead.
You want me to say? Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I am a shero because I see the value in Black people. I see the value in myself. And as an educator on the Westside, I am constantly uplifting our next generation to believe in themselves and to work up to their potential so they can be great leaders of tomorrow. So that's one of the ways that I am a great Black shero.
Yes, definitely. I would say I'm a Black shero in the same essence as well. You know, just working in education, making sure that we work with the youth and make sure that the youth definitely understand who they are.
Absolutely.
So they won't have to be focused on who they're told to be. So definitely just working with the youth. Do we have another caller?
I just love this love tonight. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. I have a rebuttal to that previous caller concerning Harold Washington. I like to think of Harold Washington more so as a landmark, you know, as in history as well as a Chicago icon, you know. And the way I guess we're going to have more Harold Washington is to encourage, and Barack Obama's is to encourage these candidates when they come and run for office. Even if it's a Willie Wilson, you know, people thought wouldn't survive and become a worthy candidate. But you have to encourage these candidates, you know. Jesse Jackson had to be encouraged. All these people had to be encouraged. And that is how we got to a Harold Washington and a Barack Obama, because the numbers and the encouragement, you know, brought these people out. And we're going to have a lot more young statesmen to come about, you know, through encouragement.
It's
when
definitely
they come
agree.
and show up at the polls and show up on the ballot, vote for them, even if they're not going to necessarily win the race.
Exactly.
Vote for them. That's not splitting the vote. That's encouraging the ones to come.
Thank you. It's definitely agreed upon that, because it's really good representation needs to be shown, and for more so of our youth to know about it. It's not that we're choosing who we want to know, it's about who we're shown, and what we see. You cannot be what you cannot see. So definitely representation is definitely important. That's why we want to discuss our HBCUs.
Yes.
So what are HBCUs? They are historically Black colleges and universities.
Hey.
The first HBCU was Cheyney University of Pennsylvania, and that was established in 1837. A philanthropist named Richard Humphreys, he helped fund this institution, specifically because he noticed the Black struggle. A lot of these HBCUs were established before the Civil Rights Act, so a lot of Blacks could not get into schools or receive education simply because they were Blacks. So this is why the HBCU started, the historically Black college and university started, and that's why it's just so important. Originally, there were 121 universities. There are about 101 existing universities right now, and that's including private and public institutions. So there are private HBCUs and public HBCUs.
So I see the value in historically Black colleges and universities. And obviously, so does Beyonce in her Coachella performance. A lot of that enacted, like, step shows,
Yes,
fraternities and sororities and at HBCUs. But do you think that in our state of 2019 America that HBCUs are still needed?
definitely. That is a place where our culture is sacred. It is definitely taught through our gaze, not through another gaze. It's taught by professors that understand you and can help you move forward. And when the culture, like you were saying, the band shows, the line dancing, just meeting other people that look like you from different parts of the world, it is definitely important, especially being in America where it's kind of hard to see yourself in representation in media. So when you go to these places, you meet not only what they tell you to be on TV, but people that you read about, scientists, doctors, dancers, anybody and everybody. So HBCUs are definitely important. They will always be needed. As long as America exists, HBCU will always be needed.
Absolutely. And I agree. I just wanted to just like put it out there for those who are like, oh no, we don't need HBCUs anymore.
Right.
Just like devil's advocate. Another caller. Hello.
Good evening, ladies. It's me again. I just want to make another quick comment.
Okay.
Historical black colleges and universities. I attended one, and it was due to the encouragement, again, from Cyrus Pennell. I'm not sure if you ladies know, heard of Cyrus Pennell, but he recruited some thousands of disadvantaged young people in Chicago and to come to college. I had no aspirations, no interest in going to a college after high school, even though I just barely made it through. They pushed me in, gave me a mentor, directed me into the direction of going into optometry. And I was successful. You know, I became not an optometrist, but an ophthalmology technician. You know, through just going through parochial, one of these private training schools, you know, trade schools.
Nice. Well, anyway, shout out to you. That is really good.
Black colleges. Again, I attended one, and it went defunct some years later. And it was down in Knoxville College. The students are, struggling, trying to revive the school. And I was telling some of my, alumni, as I said, historical black colleges came because black folks weren't allowed to go to school with white students, white colleges and universities. So I guess what happened was through the gospel religious institutions, preachers and statesmen and so forth, went out and got these land grants and opened these black colleges. But some of these grants probably only lasted 100 years. Some of these schools.
Hey, I heard about that.
Some of these folks are talking about, well, how do we revive them? Well, Barack Obama and others, they say, well, to go online and go to school. It's not the same thing. Again, it's an experience to be able to go to college with, people who have things in common with you as far as culture.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling and letting us know that. Thank you. Do we have another caller before we move on with some more facts?
I think we saw a caller. Yeah.
Okay, so definitely when he was saying about the state and war,
we do have a caller.
Oh, before we get into that, hello, caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh yeah, hi. I'm calling just with a quick question about HBCUs. I heard the information that you stated earlier about why you feel that they're important. But what do you say to the black person or the white person or the person from any background who, I guess, would say, oh, HBCUs are racist or they feel that they're not needed or something like that? How would you respond to that question?
How I responded initially, it cannot be racist because HBCUs were started specifically because black people were not allowed to get an education. So if they were allowed to get an education in the first place, the HBCU would have never been needed or been existed. So there was a need for it to happen for the black people, us, to be able to move forward in life. And education is so important. To be denied education is being denied a life.
Your race. Mm-hmm.
You know, to read, to understand, to learn. It's just so important to have it. So it just cannot be racist, and it is definitely needed.
It's definitely needed. And the fact that you are not allowed to be an HBCU if you're not of African descent. Like,
anyone can go to HBCU.
People because they're not black.
Exactly.
It's just because it was out of necessity in the 1800s and 1900s that black people were not being admitted into college universities. So this is why they were created. But they're still definitely needed, and all are welcome.
Just like civil rights were needed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do we have another caller?
Another caller. We have a hot night tonight. Okay. Hello?
Hi, thank you for taking my phone call. I have a question. Have you seen the new Ancestry.com ad, and do you think it is racist?
New Ancestry.com ad.
Yes, so there's a new Ancestry.com ad where it's back in the slavery days, and it's basically just disgusting to really talk about, especially it's a repeat conversation, right? It's 2019, we're still talking about what is right and what is wrong, and it's like we're preaching to infants, to be quite honest. And it's like, how many times can you say you're sorry when you already understand where you're messing up? Representation is just so important. So if I was a person that never seen anything in my life and I saw that commercial, it actually just put it really into perspective what colonialism and westernism has done to the world. And so
okay,
it's a commercial that maybe it's been pulled.
I may check it out, or I may not check it out.
Right, it's
maybe
been
it's
pulled.
A blessing
Actually,
I have not seen it. So okay. All right, I feel like we've been all over tonight, which is great because we had a lot of great callers. But our next point, because our theme for the show is to be accounted for, we had a poem about black women being accounted for in America and just all over the world in general. We talked about Beyonce, of how she's saying that HBCUs should also be accounted for, but how to literally be accounted for is to do the census. That's what we're going to be talking about next.
All right. And do we have a caller?
Yes, hello?
Hello.
Yeah, hey, I'm calling. I have another question. Jamesia, I heard you earlier, you mentioned that you're in education. I just wanted to know, like, what are both of your thoughts on the disparity of black history and how it's not really emphasized in certain school systems? Because I'm thinking back to, when I was in elementary school, middle school, and I don't really remember learning a whole lot about black history. A lot of it I had to look up on my own.
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts? Do you have any ideas about how, I guess, school systems can, put black history in their curriculums again? Because I know it's kind of up to the school boards.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you. Would you like to go ahead? Or
I think he asked you. Wait, go ahead.
I would definitely agree. It was not, I didn't really learn about black history in a sense of learning outside of Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks, the common people. I didn't really learn about real black history until I went to college and I took Africana Study course. It was up to me to go find about my history. It is an issue that world history is taught in schools, but it doesn't include any black history, which can be impossible really to write about, because to have history is to include any black person, since black people have been here since the beginning of time. So a lot of that points out another good discrepancy, because a lot of history that we learn is inaccurate.
Yeah.
And it is important. How can we bring it back to schools? Well, first, state legislations, Chicago public schools is certain things that you can teach and you cannot teach. And that's a whole nother topic with charter schools and going another way. But
yeah. So we have a lot of great questions so far, but we also want to conclude with more information about the census.
Definitely.
And why it's important. So next year, actually less than a year, on April 1st, we'll have the census of 2020. So that's the Illinois Complete Count Commission, was formed in 2017 with the mission to help educate communities, organizations, and Illinois residents about the importance of the upcoming census, 2020 census. Pretty much, we want to make sure that all communities are accounted for. Historically, these have been some of the communities that have been left out. Minority communities such as Black and Brown communities, college students, those who are not native to Illinois, farm families, people living in large housing units or apartment complex, children under 5, and the homeless. So it's important that we get representation and that you are counted, because you matter and you should be given the resources that you need to fully function and to thrive here in Chicago. It's a great city, but unfortunately a lot of the wealth is dispersed in unfair ways. So in order to combat that, we have to make sure we are accounted for.
Definitely. And you just said that so perfectly. Like, it doesn't. It's important.
Yes.
But thanks for checking us out.
Yes, this was a great welcome back show. We had so much love, so many people coming and calling in on us. We appreciate you all for calling. Definitely make sure you chime in the conversation next week when we return. But before we conclude, we want to make sure that we invite you to our general body meeting happening 2 Saturdays from tomorrow. All are welcome to attend. Thank you all. Happy Friday and have a great evening.
Thank you. And I'm your host, Jamesia Banks.
And I'm Tara Levy. Have a good night.
See you next Friday.